Hey, welcome back to Stuck in the Middle Champions. It's me, Steven. My sign name is Steven. I'm really excited to have a moment with you. I wanted to share a little bit about myself. First of all, I'm a hard of hearing individual, hard of hearing man who's been having hearing loss since birth, from age 0 to age now 30. And I've gone through a lot of different uh, things, challenges, a lot of triumphs and failures and opportunities and good things, bad things, all kinds of great life experiences with this hearing loss journey. And I've met a lot of people who have either gone through it themselves, like later in life, they finally came across the hearing loss path, or they've experienced it early on, or they know someone who's gone through it. And basically, they've either asked questions about it, or they either didn't know anything about it and just kind of had their own assumptions about people who have hearing loss, or just hearing loss itself. And it basically ended up having this whole notion of, this feeling that hearing loss is maybe this bad thing, this horrible thing. And I wanted to basically let people know that it's really not. It's not as bad as you may think, or as a person may think. Although there may be challenges that come with it, just like with anything, there's going to be challenges there. So having hearing loss is just no different. And with this one, this was for people who are just getting into experiencing hearing loss, like later on, and having to accept a new reality. They may not have had any challenges whatsoever in relating to having hearing loss. I wanted this to kind of reach out to you and help you get over that hurdle. If you gotten sick all of a sudden and are experiencing it, maybe it's just part of your, like me, it's hereditary. Maybe it was an onset that happened later on in life. For me personally, with the gene that I have and in my DNA, I have between the ages 0 to 7 before I could actually experience the hearing loss. And that's the same with two of my children. They don't. They may not see any type of hearing loss in the first few years of their life, and they may not get it until they end up being 7 years old, and then finally end up seeing it. For myself, though, personally, I didn't. I right off the jump dealt with the hearing loss, but for those who may, have like the same kind of genes going on with that I have in my DNA, they may end up not having to worry about it until later. There are other people who may not even experience it until their older age. I mean, they just may not get it until, later on in life. And because of, maybe the excessive loud music, maybe that could be a reason. Maybe it could just be coming with age itself. And then there are sometimes people just don't really have a really good explanation as to how they became someone who's having to deal with being hard of hearing. But whatever the case, if you are one of them who is having to experience hearing loss out of nowhere, and or you may know someone who is, there are a couple ways that we could deal with that newfound reality. And one of the first things that happen to a person when they first become hearing loss, or they find out that they are, or having to accept that they are hard of hearing, at least for me, I know I had to find a way to accept it, even though I may have been born with it from the beginning, from the beginning having hearing loss. I still did not fully accept it until later on in life, and that within itself is can be really frightening. So if you're one of those who have to deal with it now and accept this new reality, there are some ways that we can get through that. And then one of the first ones is to first get it out your system, whatever it is that you're feeling. I mean, it's now a new normal for you, or will have to be a new normal, and you're going to have to figure out a way to be able to live with this whole opposite way of life. And for me, I always lived this way of life, but I never accepted it. Like I said, I used to kind of ignore it. Maybe not so much ignore it because it was always in my face, but I never embraced it. I kind of like I wanted to kind of blend in with a lot of the hearing community because that's who I was usually around, and I was ashamed of being hard of hearing. I used to kind of like hide it. I would put like big old headbands over my head and cover up my hearing aid and kind of like put hoodies on all the time. I would always, you would always see me like this. Always. I would find way to make it unnoticeable, not noticeable that I could not hear very well. So accepting it is really one of the biggest things that has to happen in the beginning, and you got to get it out your system some kind of way. And so for me, what ended up working once I finally hit that age in my life later on, believe it or not, it wasn't until I was 18 that I finally said I'm going to accept being hard of hearing. I had been already hard of hearing for those first 18 years, but it wasn't until that 18th that I said I'm going to just do it, and I got no choice. Like I have to accept and embrace it. So the first thing was get it out my system and tell someone and write about it. I ended up having to write all of my feelings out and into because I love writing poetry. So I wrote everything out for my poems and how I felt about it and what I was stressed about, what I didn't like about it, and things of that nature, what I was worried about, and just got it out of my system. And that was the first step for me onto the journey of accepting that I am just going to be someone who is hard of hearing and actually embrace all of that part of myself. So the first step to me is first getting out of your system. If you're talking to someone, go talk to someone. If you have to write it out, if you got to sing it out, if you got to dance it out, if you got to yell it out, scream it out into a pillow, do so. But it is important that it comes out and it doesn't build up into something worse because of that stress and that fear that's already in there. Um, so please, if you are one of those who just found out, get it out your system. Second thing, once you've gotten it out your system and you've done everything you need to do to basically express yourself, to get rid of whatever negative emotions you may be feeling at the moment, at least at that immediate, immediate moment, um, then you got to get curious about it. I mean, you already know this is now new for you. This is something you're gonna have to deal with and live with, and you're gonna have to find a way to keep pushing and keep going. So a lot of times you can either take it and go negative and go straight downhill, or we can go the opposite, and we can go opposite by first getting curious about it. Get childlike about it. Children are great at being curious and wondering things in an innocent way and finding out more information about any new thing that they've never experienced before or seen before. And to be able to get childlike about something like this, it would start turning the wheels in a way that you may not have had them turned in a while, in a great way. It makes you maybe feel more happy again. I wouldn't say necessarily happy right away, but it would definitely make you feel a little more calm about the whole thing. And once you get curious, then you start finding out answers to your questions, to your fears. Maybe you start to realize that those fears that you thought were really bad may not be so bad, or the things that you once thought were that you were hoping you would never have to deal with, you may not have to deal with. And I think just getting curious and maybe reading up on the hearing loss thing, or people who end up dealing with the having hearing loss later in life, or people who have lived their whole life being hard of hearing. Just kind of just reading about the whole thing of what happened to your body as someone who's hard of hearing, and then equipping yourself with as much information as possible is, I think, going to be essential in order for you to get into, this whole thing of accepting and embracing just, who you are and where you are right now. And, you know, lastly, you can also get connected with people who are living, they have deaf socials where there are a combination of people who are deaf and hard of hearing. And, kind of maybe going to not just the socials, but going to those social events where they're sitting at a restaurant and meeting up, or at a Starbucks and they're going to have coffee, or maybe at a bowling alley where they're going to go play games. There's all kinds of different ways to maybe get connected. They have deaf expos where there's a combination of deaf and hard of hearing people. But just finding a way to if you have to go with a friend, or if you're bold enough to go by yourself, brave enough to go by yourself, go and start interacting with other people who are hard of hearing and kind of find out their experiences, find out how they became hard of hearing and what their life is like, and how they overcome barriers and obstacles, and find out what makes life great for them. How do they enjoy life? What makes life fun for them? Because there are, believe it or not, a lot of ways that life can be more fun and enjoyable when we are experiencing this journey. So that's, I think, going to be the most important piece as well. After you express yourself, then you get curious about it and you start finding out more information. You start feeling better about the fact that you now know what you're getting into. It's not something that is totally foreign to you. You kind of you embrace yourself. You embrace some support systems. If you don't already have some, maybe you'll gain some new ones by going out and reaching out to people and reading up on it, and equipping yourself. Then you can go into the last stage of just accepting it, uh, accepting accepting this new reality, and accepting that this is who you are or who you will be. And believe it or not, there's a lot of benefit to this accepting yourself as someone who is hard of hearing now, or who's going to experience having hearing loss. You can always see yourself or see a future that is better than what you expected, if you would allow yourself to do so. At first, you may not see it. It may seem like it's really daunting and scary, but if you give yourself a chance, you can see a future with great relationships with people, out living a great life, maybe going out on different experiences, skydiving and going to different places across the country, going across the world, just having great life experiences, even as someone who is hard of hearing. A lot of times people think the world is over because they've lost that hearing, and that is just simply not true. There are still so many great things that a person can do, um, even while having hearing loss. And I think that is something extremely important for people to know, that just because all of a sudden you may have a new reality or new way of life, it does not mean that the world is over. Like it's not over. You still have a lot that we can do. So just accepting it, finding, envisioning a great future. Maybe you can make it a game, make it fun. See how many cool things you can do, or that you've never done before. As someone's hard of hearing, see how many different challenges you can get yourself to take on, as someone who is hard of hearing. Like maybe trying to see if you could go walk through a place that you normally would never have walked through without your hearing aids, for example, if you don't already have one. If you do have one, take it out, maybe just see how you can find a way to make it fun. A lot of times those things don't seem fun because it can trigger a lot of negative emotion, which is which is, I guess you would say, it's pretty normal. I experience a lot of them. I used to experience a lot of negative emotion, especially going in public places around a lot of people and hearing all kinds of chatter around, and then taking my hearing aid out and realizing all the chatter going down and being worried that I'm missing out on a lot of information, and then freaking out about it. Um, that used to be very daunting. I used to not like it at all. But once I started to accept the fact that I was hard of hearing and that it's just going to be me, it became a little easier to just say like, hey, this is just going to happen. Like I'm just going to miss out on a lot of information, on a lot of conversations going on. I'm going to miss out on people calling my name. I'm going to, have a hard time at first. Well, not at first. I'm gonna have a hard time hearing a lot of things going on. That's just gonna be the reality of it. It's And that's okay. That is who I am, and I can't change that, and I wouldn't wish to change it. And I think that that is also something that comes with this whole notion of just embracing and accepting that that is you and it's who you are. And once you've gotten there and just try to accept everything that comes with it and start to kind of get yourself fully embraced and immersed in what that means for you, or what life will be like for you, and how successful of a life you can still live, how a great life you can still live, everything changes. And I think it'll just take you seeing something different than what you may have been pre-exposed to, what you may have heard from other people, what you may have seen, and just maybe seeing something even better for yourself. And once you do that, I think it will make all of this accepting this new reality thing an even easier process for you. So that's all I have for today. I really hope this helps someone. I just want to be able to give some kind of encouraging words to help you with going from maybe never having experienced this hearing loss, into now all of a sudden you being there and having to move forward. And just know that there are always people there who are going to support you, or who can support you, or will support you and help you along this path. And if you have any questions, any thoughts, any comments, please feel free to leave them. Reach out, let me know what you're thinking, and I look forward to hearing from you. All right, thanks you guys for tuning in.